Welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Reshaping Business with Integrity, the podcast where you explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Boogaerts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. Well, hello. It's been a little while. I was thinking about it. Sometimes how it just kind of feels like you need a bit of a break. Sometimes you can feel about that in the holiday season, whatever type of year it is. Sometimes you just feel like all the things that you need to do for your business on a regular basis can just really add up. And sometimes you just need a break from it. And even if you you don't end up going on vacation or something, sometimes it's just nice to do a little pause. So I decided to take a break for a few weeks from my social media posting, from my newsletters, and from my podcast. I'm sure you have noticed, maybe it's been missing for the last couple of weeks, but I'm back. And today you've got me, and then I've got a lot of great guests lined up for you. I want to talk about a couple of things. One of them is, if you feel you also need a break, give yourself permission a little bit. Sometimes it's okay to, especially with the social media posting. I'm not a social media person. And, so posting on social media and like commenting and doing all that for my business, it's not my most favorite thing to do. And I'm in a lot of posting parties. You know what a posting party is? It's where you get a group of people together and everybody shares their posts with each other. And then you go and comment on everybody else's posts, just so they can kind of get some traction and the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. But wow, it can take a long time. Sometimes I'm in one where it can be up to like 30 people, and that's like 30 comments I got to go make. We'll touch on that later about the tool that I use for that, and I'll put in the link in the show notes for it. But two things I want to talk about you today is one of them is about strategies that you need when launching your program and doing your event in your program. And second is about my rebrand. Whoop whoop! Finally, I've been working on it for so bloody long. We'll talk about that too. So let's talk about strategy first. I'm sure you already know, right, that I'm a project manager and I work as a fractional project manager. And I've been in the industry for over 15 years. And my corporate job was like 25 years, but about 10 years in, my manager at the time was like, I think you'd be good at project management. I started that career and here I am today. And I bring these skills into the coaching world and I help, established coaches launch successful programs and events and get lots of people into their events, and really help them, like get way more people into their events and have way less stress doing it. And but when I first start with a project with a client, we talk strategy. I like to sit down with them and have a strategy session. And I find that if I don't, then it's a bit of a scramble, which I'm actually noticing with one of my clients right now. It's to like jump in and get started right away. Once I have these strategies, then I have a very clear picture and they have a very clear picture of exactly where we're going, what we're doing. And I kind of get answers to all my gazillions of questions that I ask people. So I want to share with you 4 different strategies that can really help you scale your coaching business, and the ones that I take my clients through when I first start working with them. So it's your business strategy, your launch strategy, your lead strategy, and your marketing strategy. So I'm just going to give you a high level of this. I might do a deep dive into these, between now and sort of the end of the year. So let's talk about business strategy first. So you need to know how much revenue that you want to be making, right? When you think about your business, and it's good to, do that whenever your financial year starts, your fiscal year starts. And most people, say it starts at the beginning of the calendar year. So you kind of do that in January or into December. And I find that September, as someone told me the other day, that, September is like the New Year's, everybody kind of comes back from summer and, sort of resets and it's like, okay, what do I got to do between now and the end of the year, right? We got 4 months, let's get it going. And so September can be a really good time to relook at that and be like, okay, what was my revenue target for this year and where am I at with it? Because we 9 months in, and am I going to reach that? And what do I need to do to reach those goals, right? And so from there, you got to figure out how many clients you need, in order to hit those goals, and how much you're going to charge each client. And yeah, so kind of have like a high level of what that is. And especially when you're in September, you can kind of look at that and be like, okay, where am I at with this? Because, am I actually, 2/3 of the way to my goal? Am I over that? Am I under that? What needs to happen between now and the end of the year to make it happen, to achieve those goals? Which leads me into your launch strategy, right? So if you're planning to launch group programs or doing like masterminds or doing events, you want to determine how many of these launches you need in this year or for the rest of the year to meet those revenue goals, right? So some people, do one-on-one clients, some people sell, software as a service. But a lot of people do group programs and they do masterminds and they do events and things like that leads to their revenue goals. And you kind of want to look at as well, like how many different streams of revenue that you have. Because even if you're doing an event, you might sell tickets, or people might upgrade to VIP. You might have a downsell, product that you sell. Like for me, I sell my plans. I have these big Excel documents that I use with all my clients for a launch, and they're amazing templates, and it gives you literally everything that you need for your launch, one place to keep it all organized. And so I sell those individually. That's a really kind of easy thing to kind of just give to people if they're not ready to work with me yet, or if they want to do it on their own. So yeah, so let's think about it. So for instance, if you want to aim to make, say, 100K this year, right, in 2025 or whatever year you're listening to this, you'll need to break down your revenue sources and set some really clear targets for each launch and each revenue source. So you're going to ask yourself, how many group programs will I launch? What's the price point that I'm selling that? And then how many people do I need to get to my event where I'm going to sell that group program, right? And what is my conversion rate? What is your percentage typically of conversion? And then I really feel like understanding these metrics really helps with your planning. So with a group program, I'm going to give you sort of a series of questions here that you can think of when you're creating your launch strategy. So, how many group programs will you need to launch this year? So I always mention that one. What's the price of the program? What's your revenue target for each launch? So say you're going to do this group program and you're going to launch it with like twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, or is it something that you just, is it more of an individual thing that you do with monthly webinars? What does that look like? And then how many people need to be in each of those group programs to hit that target? Then think about how many people will you need live or registered to your event where you're going to be selling that program in order to convert them into your program, right? So when selling direct from a webinar, the conversion rate is about 10%. Like it's not very high. So if your program, say, is 1,500 and you're doing a 1-hour webinar, and say your revenue target is 15,000 for that specific launch, you need 10 people to buy your program, which means that if that conversion rate typically on average is 10%, that means that you need 100 people live at your webinar. So maybe your strategy becomes you needing, 3 or 4 webinars in order to get those 100 people live. Sometimes it can be hard to get 100 people to show up, right? So once you answer these questions, you'll have, a really good, nice launch strategy. So next up is your lead strategy, right? Leads us right nicely into the lead strategy, because you just identified that you need 100 people live at your webinars for one launch, right? Well, the average conversion rate of people registering to actually showing up is only like 20 to 30%. Isn't that crazy? How many people sign up for something and then don't show up? Now, I do know some people that have had like 40% show up rates, have 80% show up rates. It's pretty awesome. I know one of my coaches, he does a New Year's Eve event, and he had I think it was like 70 people show up. I guess most people aren't doing anything that day. It was a pretty quiet day. Smart guy. So if you need 100 people live, you're going to need to get 300 people registered. That's a big number. So now the question is, where are all these leads coming from, right? Where are all these people coming from? So again, think of some questions. You want to define your lead strategy. So, thinking about, if you want to email your email list, do you need to grow your email list to get new people into your list to sell to, right? So how many new subscribers do you want to gain in this year in order to make all those launches, right? Or for now between the end of the year. And same with social media, how many new social media followers do you want to gain with this launch or for the rest of the year? And a great way to get people onto your list and engage in social media is to give them a lead magnet of some kind, right? Some freebie that you can give them or something that is of value. Um, so where and how will you promote this lead magnet? Your lead magnet, you could have several, right? And then you have like your joint venture partners, your affiliates, whatever you may call them. I'm not going to call them joint venture partners or JV partners. So how many joint venture partners do you want to help you promote your event? So again, the coach I have, he has a list of 3,500, but he had, I don't know how many JV partners help him promote his event. And he sold over, and he was selling tickets. So it was a paid event. And he sold over 200 tickets. I don't know what his actual registration number was in the end, but I know that a couple of days before he was just under 200, but he had like 100 people live, which is pretty awesome. So he probably had like a 40%, 50% show up rate. So when you think of that, so him with such a small list, he was able to get that many people registered, but it wasn't just because of his list. It was because he had joint venture partners helping promote his event and selling tickets, which was pretty cool. So speaking, how many speaking gigs do you want to speak at? Or do you want to host something yourself? Do you want to host a summit yourself? Because that's a really good way to get a bunch of new leads, right? Because all your speakers are going to promote the summit. And so then you get all of those leads. But yeah, you can even think about podcasts. You can think about, speaking on summits, speaking in events, lots of different ways that you can speak. And so, and the thing with speaking as well is that you got to like find them and then make sure that they're, like within the year, within the target. So you kind of want to plan out your speaking gigs so that they're before your launch, so you can get those people and then invite them to your event. Same with gift giveaways or bundles. How many gift giveaways or bundles do you want to join as a contributor? That's a really good way to get leads. Or do you want to host one yourself? Again, it's similar to the summit. If you host it yourself, you get all of the leads, which is awesome. Networking, if that's a way that, which is one of my ways, a lot of my ways to get my clients is through networking and referrals. So, how many networking events will you attend to? How many communities are you a part of? And, how many of those can you attend? And of course, all of these things take time, right? So you got to like look at your calendar and be like, okay, what can I do? What can I fit in? And if you, work one-on-one or you'd like to have calls with people, how many people will you invite to book a call with you? I know one of my business mentors, he talks about having 5 calls a day. Be on the phone with 5 different people every single day. They don't necessarily all have to be sales calls, but sometimes they turn into that. Have you ever noticed that? Like I'll have a call with somebody and it'll be like a get to know you call, like a coffee chat or something like that. And it's just like I have no expectations. And I'm just usually most of them I think is going to be some type of JV conversation, see how we can work together. Can we collaborate, promote each other's events? So that's kind of usually what I think is going to happen. But then some of them, once we start talking, they're like, oh my gosh, I need you. And then all of a sudden it turns into a sales call. I'm like, what? Pretty awesome. So yeah, so how many calls do you want to be having? And again, kind of plan that in. So that's an outline for your lead strategy. And once you have that clarified, you'll know what you need to focus on to get the right leads into your program. This is what it's about. It's about getting the right leads into your program. So it's kind of good to have it targeted that way. All right. So, okay. So now you have your launch strategy, right? You know where you're getting your leads from. And now you need to do your marketing strategy. So, again, this is the 4th thing that I want to talk about, the finance strategy I'm going to talk to you about today. So your launch marketing strategy needs to consist of 3 things. Your nurture, your invitation to your event, and reminders for them to show up to your event. These are kind of high level. There are more things about your marketing strategy for sure. But for your nurture, and a lot of these, it can get quite detailed, but so I would say about 4 to 6 weeks out of your launch and your event, you want to start talking about the topic of your event. in your program. Not talking about the event itself, not talking about the program itself, but talking about the topic of it. So by the time you invite them, right, to your event and then eventually to your program, they're going to be nicely warmed up. They're going to be like, oh, this is what you talk about all the time. You're an expert in this field. I totally get it. Like I expect this from you. It makes sense that you would have an event to do with this topic because you've been talking about it for so long. And then you have your invitation to your event, right? So depending on which event you have, you want to be, selling them differently. I know somebody that is doing an event in December and is already promoting it now, and it's September. So it's like 3 months out. He's just always talking about it all the time. But you don't need to be that far out. But I mean, why not, right? Why not just always be inviting people? But if you're just, you're doing a webinar or something that's like a 1 hour, 90-minute event, 7 to 10 days out of your event, you want to start telling them about it and invite them to sign up. And you can do this in so many different ways, right? So think of all the different ways that you can invite them, right? So you could talk about your why story for the event or your why story for your business and, why you're so passionate about this topic. You can bring in testimonials from clients, right? Like case studies, share their stories, and you can even talk about your biggest mistake or the lesson that you learned. So all of these are kind of interesting ways to share information and to really connect with people and invite them to your event. Right after that, it kind of leads into your event instead of just sending an email being like, hey, come to my event, sign up now. You can do those too, but it's kind of nice to do have more sort of more content around the invitation. And then your reminders. So for the people that do sign up, right, you got them nicely warmed up, and then they invite them to your event. You give them these amazing reasons why they need to come, and then so they sign up, and then you want to send them reminders so they can actually show up, right? You want to remind them to come. So again, you can get creative with this as well. Don't just say my event's on Wednesday, show up, right? You could do an email. I mean, you can do that too, especially if it's like the day before, or, hey, we're starting in an hour. That can be a short, choppy email. But as you're leading up to it, especially if they signed up 10 days before, you might want to send them some reminders, right? So you could do an email about FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, or reasons why they need to attend the event. You can talk to, speak to their pain points and how the event solves that pain point for them. There's lots of sort of creative ways that you can get them to be excited about the event and know that they need it. They need to come. It's going to help them. So yeah, so launching, a program is a lot of work for sure, but with a structure and a really good strategy, it's totally doable. So yeah, that's the high level version of the strategies that I take my clients through. And I find that it really helps them transform their business and gives a very clear direction of where we're going together. Yeah, so I hope you found that helpful. So now onto the rebrand. Oh, so this has been an interesting journey that's been going on for a while. I kind of noticed, I don't know when it was ago, maybe 6 months ago, where in January of 2025, I went on the marketers cruise and I met a lot of new people. And, it's like, oh, what's the title of your business? And I was like, oh, it's Inspiration by Elisa. And I remember thinking, that doesn't really make sense anymore. When I think about the journey that I've had as being an entrepreneur, I got certified as a health coach and a life coach back in 2010. I think I started my certification in 2010. I got certified in 2021, and I've always been a healthy person. I've always been quite sporty, and knowing about health is something I've always really been interested in and practiced myself. So I started as health coaching, and then you kind of focused on the running industry because I'm a runner, and yeah, and then I moved into life coaching and helping people with their self-confidence, which is kind of actually Inspiration by Elisa was something that we came up with that business idea, that business name years before I actually started the company out, maybe like 10 years before the company actually became like a licensed business in Canada. So yeah, Inspiration by Elisa, because I wanted to inspire people either with their health, with their running. I wanted to inspire them to be other individuals. And then I also wanted to inspire them to live the life that they wanted, which is where the confidence coaching came in. It was like, I want you to feel confident in yourself that you can go do anything that you want to do in your life. And and even though it's scary, you can go do it. Like I wanted to give them the confidence. And so I had all these different tools for that. And, but then a couple of years ago, decided to switch into, being a launch strategist and this fractional project manager and helping people on the business side, because I noticed that a lot of people don't have those skills. And of course, I worked in corporate for 25 years. I worked for some huge companies. Like I know a lot of stuff, and I've seen businesses scale. And I noticed you talking to people, they're like, oh, I didn't think about this. I didn't think about that. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was knowledge that I had that nobody else had, or not nobody, but people in the coaching industry didn't have. And also just seeing how people, weren't launching their programs because they didn't know where to begin, and they hated the tech, and they didn't, all these things. And I was like, oh, I can do all of this for people. Okay, let's switch. So, so Inspiration by Elisa didn't really make sense anymore. Now that I'm more of a business coach, I'm talking about launching, project management. It didn't really fit. And it always felt a little bit funny when I would say that was my business name, or when I would give my email, and it'd be this Elisa, inspirationbyelisa.com. It's like this long ass email. So, so I decided to switch. And I finally got incorporated. We've been like a sole proprietor for like 4.5 years now. Finally, let's get incorporated. Let's make it like super official, which kind of meant that everything had to be set up new. And I didn't really think about it. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just get incorporated, whatever. And I was like, oh no, it's all good. So so I thought about creating my logo, which actually, because I do love Inspiration by Elisa, and I had a friend help me create my logo, and I really like it. I was like, oh, you know what? I can pretty much use the same thing and just kind of switch it around a little bit and change the Inspiration by, which was like in written letters, to Boogaerts Consulting. So now my incorporation is Elisa Boogaerts Consulting Inc. And but what I want to do, and actually people see, that's my company, but what I actually want to be called is Launch Partner Pro. So I got the domain for Launch Partner Pro, and I haven't quite made the logo for that one yet. But I have my email for that. And so slowly trying to transition it over. So if you're on my newsletter, please add support at launchpartnerpro.com to your contact list, because that's where my newsletters are going to start coming out soon. And the thing with the email, do you remember when Google did whatever and we all had to do that DMARC thing? And it was like everybody's emails were going into spam and like being flagged everywhere. And it was like, what are we doing? And I don't know how many coaches I know went onto Fiverr and was like, who knows how to do this? I have no idea. And I was able to do it myself, but then I was like, oh, let's do this again for this new email. I can't remember what I did, because at the time there was so much stuff out there. There's so many websites teaching you how to do it. Anyway, I'm still trying to figure that out. I got to figure that out before I start using the email. I've been using it a bit here and there, but anyway, so it's just so interesting. So Launch Partner Pro is my new thing, and which I think is just way more aligned. So support at launchpartnerpro.com. Is the email you can contact me on. And so I'm just kind of slowly rolling it out. And I built a new website. So launchpartnerpro.com is my new website. So that's also been interesting. So I've been doing that while transitioning to High Level as my CRM platform. And so recreated that. And also just figuring, I'm like, right, I got to write out my new services, my new story, my new bios, all that kind of stuff. Have a new calendar for people to book a sales call with me. So it's been a lot of work doing that on top of everything else. And it's been quite the journey. So yes, excited to share that with you. I am in rebrand, and I would love you to go to my website. If you have any feedback, please let me know. And I'm just super excited about it. So I'll definitely put that in the show notes for you, my website. And that is it for me today. Oh, wow. 24 minutes rambling on. Sometimes I'm like, what am I going to talk about when I do these episodes? But thank you for listening. I hope you found it helpful. And we will talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.